Huh? He's passed. Yeah, it's like Lake City was. We were having to go to Lake City to look for a part, and while we were down there, we just thought we'd eat. Went to Roadhouse, and that's where we ran into Caleb. But like Tyler, Caleb's Fort White, and where Tyler lives, and his mill is like White Springs, like Jasper. It's ish. Like I bet Caleb's probably within about 30 minutes of him, 35 minutes, something like that. And then he told Tyler, if you need something, I'm probably closer than most others.
Yeah. I'm a kid still.
Exactly. We encourage this. We encourage this.
I didn't grow up since I was 13.
That's right. Holly should be in there with you. We just can't get her to go. What did you enjoy your trial run of the wedding? That's us. That's what Kevin said. That was just trial run for wedding. Same family and everything, just kind of like. We know that all the family is foolish. Where's home for the parents? I know I've asked them. They're in Tampa or ish. Or I thought one set of grandparents she went to church with. Was it one of the? Or maybe they were just there that Sunday. Maybe that we were there. I thought Riley's grandparents were still to So none of them, Ohio and Indiana. Any of them close to the tower that are moving forward? Now's not the right time. But they're interested in it. They're trying to get down here. So they're probably living. And then where's their son going to live? The one that just got married. So who knows where they're going to be. But they kind of want to get out of some of that cold weather up there? Or they just want to be closer to her?
Sure. Sunday.
They've been there
Sunday night.
Oh, okay. So that's not like the old home place.
Looking at me because we were in Texas Roadhouse, so that's not a normal place to see. But I mean, he's just sitting there, standing there with Dad. And he'd look at Cookie and he'd kind of look at Cookie like, you know these people too.
Yeah, when the numbers, well, and I've seen people adjust that about don't pick sides, so one side's not full, so hey, pick a seat, not a side, or something like that.
Oh, well, if we just had that from the table had some more.
And the closer too. I mean, that's.
So multiple times while we were talking, Cookie would sit down and
But I've learned some of her friends if they'll be in it. Like, are they still in town? Or are they from Florida, possibly?
Yeah, it was.
Sweet mates.
It was fun. It was fun to randomly just.
Gotta work it out.
Hey,
It'll work it out. It'll work it out. We could encourage them to live in Perry as well, and they could just commute. Let's say, because when they were looking, were they looking here, or were they looking more Tampa-ish? Which I don't know. There's a minute. Dad, give me a year or two, right? Hey, no. I'm gonna tell Riley, look, we're trying to grow the church here. We want good people. We'll take parents, grandparents, we'll take them all. Come on. In fact, I'm gonna send them some realtors. I'm gonna start texting them some listings.
That lady there said you needed to get sweetened
up.
Hey,
in Quail Point. I'm gonna send them some Quail Point lot points. At least now. All right, y'all ready? I know, GPaw started class 30 minutes late because y'all was talking.
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah.
Who's doing it? Oh, I didn't see she came in. I'm gonna text your husband. All right, can I share with y'all a story that happened in church tonight before y'all got here? Miss Lois is my new favorite person. Miss Lois is my new favorite person. All right, so she found, I think, in your pew or in the pew in front of you, she found a screw. And I didn't hear exactly, but the sentiment I got is she went up to Janet and said, "Hey, I think you got a screw loose." So was it something close to that? But it was close. So, well, and then Miss Madeline, I'm going to be honest with you. They actually talked bad about you. They said, actually, that's where Buster and Madeline sit. And so we agreed it had to be one of y'all two. So Mr. Buster has a screw loose, obviously. Yeah. All right. Well, that was too good to not share. Miss Lois, you cracked me up. That was a good one. That was a good one. All right. Announcements. What do we need to make mention of, Mr. Bill?
Right, so I told everybody why I got the camera.
Yes, sir.
But I left the important detail out. So January 6th is when they found the two. And I went back sometime last week or the week before, and we did a scan of the whole body to make sure it wasn't everywhere. And the scan came back, it was just in that one place.
Good deal.
So that's a praise, and when you get good news and you pray for that news,
Amen.
you need to give God prayer.
Amen. All right. Anything else?
Melissa is at home.
They sent her home.
She said she didn't want to go, so we're not.
Okay. 10-4. 10-4.
Bill's still got high blood pressure. Every time he looks at his wife, his blood pressure goes up.
That's what I've heard.
That's why she's in there.
Yeah. And Gator basketball ain't been doing him no favors lately either. So, but hey, we're seriously praying for that. And the main thing is, like I said, they did a heart and all kinds of tests. And they don't know what it is. So we just, Lord, either make it go away or let us figure out what we can do to get it taken care of. So we'll be praying for you, sir. And your crew, I guess the boys are back, so they're somewhat better. Good deal. Good deal. Okay. 10-4. I'm glad to be back, man. I feel 10,000. I could have probably come Sunday, but if I was still a little bit, I just didn't want to make anybody nervous about being here. So, but I feel 1,000 times better. Felt good enough to eat ice cream last night. That tells you anything, because it had been a while. All right, let's start with a word of prayer. We'll jump into 10 and maybe even get all the way through 11. I don't know, and we'll just see how far we can possibly get. Mr. Vince, do you mind kicking us off with a word of prayer before we start?
Our God, our Father, we love you. We love the things that you are, the things that you do, your goodness, your justness. We love you because you love us first. What don't you give us, Father, out of us treasures of your stores, treasures that you have? We care about every person on the earth. We care about every person in here tonight. We're all important to you. Not because we deserve it, but because who you are love. If we care about what's right, if we care about what's right, we want to try to learn and do better, you want to help us in every way. This is a great time for us to look at things that you're all about in your word. And we thank you that we even have the opportunity. You help us to learn to love each other. You help us in many ways in our hurts. You're with us when things go well. You're with us when things don't go so well. And we're so thankful that we can pray to you and that you allow us to do all the things you allow us to do. And for all the help that you give us. So we praise you. And we praise your Son for making the way possible that we can be with you forever instead of not ever being able to be with you.
Yeah, I got you.
Thank you. Thankfulness from our hearts to you, Father. Through Jesus our Lord.
Amen. Amen. All right, I want to pick up in 10 about where G. Paul left off. I might hit one or two highlights. I appreciate you being especially short notice doing that, Bill. Heard you knocked it out of the park. Sunday I watched. I listened to you and I've already talked about it, I love that he had about 7 sermons prepared. No, I'm kidding, not quite that many, but I love it. And I appreciate you being willing to do it more than you know. You and G. Paul both, and short notice. You guys had a golden opportunity to throw me under the bus and you didn't, because one of the questions was, how do you know a fool when you see him? From verse 3, even when a fool walks along the way, he shows everyone that he's a fool. How do you know a fool's a fool? How do you recognize one? And y'all didn't say, that's the way answer I remember y'all pretty much giving. They'll open their mouth and remove all doubt. Whose picture is next to it in the dictionary, people? Yeah. So that was good. And I really I'm going to tell you this section, 10 and 11, just life advice. Like, I wish we'd pull this section out right here, this age group, and like our whole town. Some of the advice is just about how to live, calculated risk, and just part of the wisdom that's in this section is just really neat to me. We'll point that out. One of those ones was verse 4 about not leaving your post. Even if the spirit of the king is against you, don't leave your post. Cooler heads prevailing, and just, there is a time to move on. There's whatever, but just stay your post, let conciliation happen. I thought that was really interesting. Now, I want to read, or have someone read. I want to read 8 and 9. 8 and 9, and let's talk about the life wisdom that's in those verses. Mr. Kevin, you mind doing that? Just 'cause I know you're going to read mine, and that's what's on my brain. Chapter 10, verses 8 and 9.
He who digs a pit will fall into it, and whoever breaks through a wall will be bitten by a serpent. He who quarries stones may be hurt by them, and he who splits wood may be endangered by it.
Now, I know I'm going to have other translations read here in just a second, right? But the way I read it from this one, and this is, like I said, I compare the translations, and that's why I'm going to have some of them read. So you dig a pit, you might fall in. You break a wall, you might get bit by a serpent. You quarry stones, you might be hurt. Where one of the places you could take this verse is, stuff's going to happen. There is a danger to everything. There is a quote unquote risk to everything. I think part of the wisdom is, don't be paralyzed by it. As you see the stuff that's going to come after this, I think that's kind of why I lean the way I do, because a lot of the wisdom that's going to come after this is, we're going to have some other things about fools, whatever. But as we get into chapter 11, especially, stuff's going to happen. Life happens. Don't be paralyzed by fear or the possibility of hurt. Now, there are other translations that word it quite a bit differently, that have a little bit different of a tense. Just, Holly, can I pick on you for your 8 and 9?
When you dig a well, you not fall in it. When you demolish an old wall, you could be bitten by a snake. When you work in a quarry, stones might fall and crush you. When you chop wood, there's a danger with each stroke of your axe. No, so
this isn't the one. Alicia, I forgot what verse of yours is the one that's quite a bit different. It's not this. Oh, it's the serpent one, verse 11. It's when we get to 11. So yours is pretty much similar. So stuff could happen, life could happen. Don't be paralyzed. Now, verse 10, what do you have? If the axe is dull and one does not sharpen the edge, then he must use more strength, but wisdom brings success. How would that tie into, hey, might be risk, could get hurt. What about chopping wood with a dull axe? Work harder. Wisdom brings success. So where do you go with that? To sharpen where I went with verse 10. So if life's going to happen, there's a danger. Develop a skill. Develop the wisdom of doing a job where you won't get hurt. And some of that's just like I talk to Tyler just because I'm fascinated by what he's doing and like the, you know, where you are. And then I imagine even your own cover. I had a question. Can I just like, it's on topic, but not. I was just curious if your son has ever been on call at night and called you because he thought you might know how to fix. That was on my brain. I was like, that's why they hired that hammer knocker, because they got like 30, 40 years of wisdom that they know. But I literally, that thought was in my head. And I was like, Tyler, if you ever got something you got to diagnose and can't figure out, call Mr. Kevin, because if you could tell him the color of it or whatever, he's probably, anyway, I was thinking about that. The wisdom of how to do a job and not get hurt. Well, when you're young, and this is part of what their job does, is you don't ever go to a call by yourself. It's always a two guy, and especially, and they're kind of, hey, Tyler, when I'm doing this, you do that, you know, or whatever. Just the whole process of teaching people how to do things with wisdom, like being taught, hey, if you'll sharpen your axe before you cut that tree down, you don't take nearly, you know, that's just life, like life wisdom of this kind of stuff. I love it. Now, we're going to do a little bit of a blurb. So here's 11. 11, I'm going to do 11 through 15. Let's do 11 through 15. G. Paul, you want to read that section?
The serpent may bite, but it is not sharp. The babbler is no different. The words of a wise man's mouth are gracious, but the lips of a fool shall swallow him up. The words of his mouth begin with foolishness, and the end of his talk is raving madness. A fool also multiplies words. No man knows what is to be. Who can tell him what will be after him? The labor of fools wearies them, for they do not even know how to go to the city.
All right, I've got the same translation, and so here's where I go with 11. Alicia, I'm going to have you read your 11, because this is the one I think I remember us being different. A serpent may bite when you don't charm it, and a babbler's no different. And where my brain goes with that is don't give a babbler an opportunity to babble. Don't give a fool an opportunity to be a fool in your presence. Now, your translation, if I remember, this is the one we were talking about. How does your 11-ish, 12-ish?
11 says, someone might know how to control snakes, but that skill is useless if a snake bites when that person is not around.
And then what is 12? Then how does 12 follow that up?
Words from the wise bring praise, but words from a fool bring destruction.
So the way I remember, because we were talking, it's almost like hers is, okay, here's the scenario of a fool, but if a wise person's not around or the charmer's not around, and so then it follows into then it's good to have a wise man around. The words of a wise man's mouth are gracious. They bring wisdom, they bring success, they bring other things. Fools' words, swallow them, end in madness, verse 13. What do you think it means in verse 14 that a fool multiplies words?
They can't shut up.
Okay, where are you going to go, Bill?
In my line of work, when someone talks too much, they either don't know what they're talking about or they're lying.
In my line of work, if a person can't tell you what they believe in somewhat of not that there's not intricate things that require longer explanation about Scripture, I'm not denying that, but if you can't summarize what you believe in somewhat of a whatever, you probably don't know what you're talking about. And the worst thing is one that goes on and on and on, and then like the more words you have, the less they mean, and a fool just multiply. No man. Now, the part that kind of comes after that, I don't know how that ties in there, but the second part of 14, no man knows what is to be. Who can tell him what will be after him? We've had that same kind of question asked 2 or 3 times already. And this is where I always put in the blurb, who can? God can. Every time he throws it in there, what man can know, or who can know the future, or who can find this out, or who can know? And I'm going, God can. God. Fool can't, God can. 15, why does the labor of fools wear them out? Why is it hard to be a fool? Why are they tired? Why is a fool tired? Because he chops with a dull axe. Why is a fool tired? Why is it exhausting to be a fool? A lot. It says he don't even know how to go to the city. They work harder. They know what they do. They work 4 times longer. And if you just ask for some wisdom, I could give y'all a bunch of personal anecdotes where I can try to do a project and make that an all day, maybe even a multiple day project. Or I can make a phone call to someone who knows a little bit more than me and make that an hour-long project, right? That kind of, to me, ties back into the guy that can, what good is a snake charmer if he's not around? You might, having the wise man around brings wisdom, brings success, and things like that. So it's exhausting to be a fool. You do everything longer, harder, more difficult.
All these scriptures to me just preach, be prepared.
Okay.
Prepared, and whenever you are, then you can handle these things. And preparation is sharpening your axe and being careful whenever you're taking down the wall because there might be a snake there. Just be prepared. Think everything through. A lot of thinking goes into what we should be doing all the time.
It's literally a command of the Old Testament: get wisdom. How do I make myself not a fool? How do I make it where I don't break through a wall and get bit by a snake? How do I do it where I'm not chopping with a dull axe? How do I get wisdom so I'm not a fool? You think, engage your brain. You ask. What did you say, Miss Margie? Find a mentor, find someone who knows better. There's just, wisdom is out there. That's why in Proverbs, same author is going to talk about wisdom as like, he kind of is going to talk about a seductive woman that can bring you down to the pit and use all of her enticement. But then he describes wisdom as a woman that you ought to pursue, go after her. There's ways to you don't have to be a fool if you don't want to be. Nobody's going to know everything, but I don't have to chop with a dull axe if I don't want to, if I'm willing to ask somebody. There's just so much wisdom in this section. Now, some things about your leadership. What kind of king do you want? Verse 16, woe to you, O land, when your king is a child, or your princes feast in the morning. Blessed are you, O land, when your king is a son of nobles, and your princes feast at the proper time for strength and not for drunkenness. Because of laziness, the building decays, and through idleness of hands, the house leaks. A feast is made for laughter, and wine makes merry, but money answers everything. Let me ask you something. What is he saying there about a wise king or a poor king, and about what's that whole section about feasting there and eating at the right time or for the right purpose? Did you catch any of that? So I guess, is there a wrong way to feast and a right way to feast?
Well, it sounded like, let's see, the wine makes you merry.
Okay.
Let's see.
Laziness is a word that I've got in there. Merriment. Well, and feasting at the proper time, because it says, woe about feasting in the morning. Throw a party first thing in the morning. I don't know if you've ever been to the golf course and guys are already teed up, if you know what I mean. And I'm not talking about golf. They're teed up by 9 o'clock in the morning. The wise king, blessed are you when you got a feast, that feast at the proper time. For what purpose? 17, for strength and not for drunkenness. Are you eating to just fill up and get fat? Or are you eating for strength? Does that make sense? And kings having the wisdom of knowing when's the right time to do that. Every woman in here is going to love verse 18. Because of laziness, the building decays, and through the idleness of hands, the house leaks. Honey, I will get to it. You don't have to remind me every 6 months. You know what I'm saying? What is the wisdom of verse 18? Because of laziness, the building decays, and through idleness of hands, the house leaks. What do I need to learn from that?
Well, if you're idle, that's the devil's workshop.
I've heard that. Idle hands. I've heard that.
Yeah.
What else you learn from this?
You repair your house before it falls apart. When you see something, fix it.
There's a big M word I'm trying to preach to my youngins. Maintenance. Take care of your equipment. Take care of your stuff. If you'll take care of your tools will take care of you. I'm not shooting for the stars. I'm just going for bare minimum. I'm not trying to get greedy. If you don't ever check the oil in that car, eventually that car will tell you it's done. It's done with basic maintenance or just, and I frustrated. I mean, I remember it was not a fun day at the Whitworth house. We were repainting some of his trailers and trying to paint that, was it called expanded metal or the ones that is the most futile effort in human history. But why are we doing this? Like, what are we in the world? We wasted our time doing? I remember like Caleb asking that question. You take care of your stuff. That trailer lasts a lot longer if you take care of it, if you put a little effort into it. The longer you put off fixing a leak, what happens? The worse the leak gets. Now you get mold. Now you got all kinds of problems. All these tarps around town and these roofs that ain't been fixed. What's going on in there? You know what's going on there living in Florida. So don't put it off. That's not just, that's for all of us. What can I get done today? Not everything. Maybe I can't fix the whole thing, but what can I patch today? What can I do for a little bit of maintenance today? And then verse 20 about cursing the king. Don't curse the king even in your thought. Do not curse the rich even in your bedroom, for a bird of the air may carry your voice, and a bird in flight may tell the matter. What's the advice in verse 20? Don't gossip.
If you don't want it repeated, don't say it.
There you go. And you know what? If you don't, it'll lead to some tussling. I got to go back. I do want to ask about this in verse 19, because I think some of your translations help with this. 19. When we were talking about feasting for the proper reason, a feast is made for laughter and wine makes merry, but money answers everything. Could I get out of balance with that, or what do you think that means? Does money answer everything, or is there another way of reading this?
It fixes everything. It can fix the roof, it can fix the whatever. The roof that leaks, the faucet that leaks.
But where does that, I mean, after talking about feasting at the right time, and feast does this, and a wine does this, and then money does, well, I don't know, this is where how my brain's working with everything else we've talked about, and fools and laziness and all that is, what's the only way to have money? Does that tie into lazy hands, idle? I'm not going to have the money to even fix stuff if I don't, if I'm sitting around feasting and making merry and drinking wine all the time, rather than going to work, am I going to have any funding? So I think you could push this verse too far about, well, money's the answer to everything. But you're not going to, it's the answer to some things. It is a tool that we need in order to get some things done. So that's kind of where my brain went with that. How's yours word that?
Well, just in my verse 17, it has the note after saying, if the king comes from a good family.
Okay.
Talking about that a good family, meaning like that they're not a slave or from, being whatever, and just thinking through that, like, if they weren't, then they probably came from money and were brought up in the idea of how to use their money wisely.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And so the same thing, like, of them not, eating and drinking to just be drunk. They're going to do it to, they're only doing it for the reasonings, I don't know, whatever, but just money solving a lot of problems here. People enjoy eating. Mine says people enjoy eating, and wine makes life happier, but money solves a lot of problems with that, coming from a good family.
Well, here's where my brain goes with that. Because you guys have probably seen this too. I have seen scenarios and heard of scenarios, you're probably familiar, where you have a very successful father who builds a business, busts his tail, turns it over to a son, and sometimes what happens with that when a son's just given everything and he's not the one who built the business? And when he finally passes away, what happens? And we've seen that. We've all seen that. But then their other side of that is a youngin' who's brought up in a home where they manage money wisely. They've been taught to take care of it. They've been taught to value it. And if the kid heeds that lesson, do you not see like them getting a huge head start in life? They start off a little bit, because their parents start them off with maybe a little bit of funding, or their parents encourage them to have a little job, and their parents are already teaching them how to save before they even get started. You know what I mean? And then now you can see someone taking that investment of wisdom, which is exactly what we're talking about, and man, they run with it. And so if you're coming from a noble family that kind of already knows how to manage money, take care of money, be wise about it, then wow, what a solution for getting that. You can see both sides of it. I mean, we've seen, so again, you can be a fool or you cannot. It's all based on the choices you want to make. Any thoughts on that before I go to 11? Because to me, we're still kind of in this life wisdom. All right, let's read I'm going to do 1 through 6 because that kind of all books together. 1 through 6. Mr. Bill, do you feel like reading?
Send your grain across the seas, and in time profits will flow back to you. But divide your investments among many places, for you do not know what risks might lie ahead. When clouds are heavy, the rains come down. Whether a tree falls north or south, it stays where it falls. Farmers who wait for perfect weather never plant. If they watch every cloud, they never harvest. Just as you cannot understand the path of the wind or the mystery of a tiny baby growing in its mother's womb, so you cannot understand the activity of God who does all things. Plant your seed in the morning and keep busy all afternoon, for you don't know if profit will come from one activity or another, or maybe both.
All right, your translation really kind of, to me, interprets what's going on here. Which one is that again? That is do you see the life wisdom of this? I know that the language of cast your bread upon the waters is not just a terminology that you would use a whole lot. So based on either his reading or you're kind of studying this verse, what does it mean to cast your bread upon the waters? Share, but there's another word I'm thinking. Diversify definitely comes in verse 2. I'm thinking invest or again, calculated risk, taking chances, but it's not all about money. I know that's what's on my brain right now, but it's just investing in life, where we're going to go with life is short. Enjoy the life of your youth. Life is short. And same kind of thing. You never know. Cast your bread upon the waters. You may find, it may happen. Verse 2, there's a term that we would use or a phrase that we would use. If Solomon was writing it today, you know what he would say? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. What does that mean? Diversify. Do what now? Just putting all of my hopes, and like I said, that's not just about money. That could be about a relationship. That could be about government. That could be about any kind of thing. You're just not putting it all into one thing. So be smart about this. 3 and 4 is just so interesting to me about, especially verse 4 and farmers. And, when the clouds get full of rain, they empty themselves, tree falls, north, south, who knows, but where it falls, it's going to lie. So verse 4 tells you, if you're always watching the wind, what's going to happen? All right, and then if you regard the clouds, if you're always watching the clouds, my version says you'll not reap. I will admit there are moments working different jobs where I just really didn't want to do that job that day. And I was kind of thinking, you know what? I really hope it rains. There's a chance of rain. Let's just not do it. Right? Or I'm thinking like a football practice where it had rained just before it got out there. Man, we were convinced that Stan Leiby, that was my high school football coach that came from Odessa Permian, that football, whatever. And we were convinced that man controlled the weather because it would be nasty overcast there in Houston. And we were like, we're getting out of practice today. We're going to be in gym and the light pads and it'll be nice and easy. And that man would walk out of that building and it would just clear. Or even if it rained, it would stop raining. And it was like good and muggy. And and you think, we're going to get out of practice today. All I'm thinking is if you put off work because it might rain, and you've seen school days where we're worried about a bad weather and for the maybe possibility, and so we don't do it, and it ends up being blue skies and wonderful. So if you're always worried and thinking about the wind, you'll never plant. And if you're always thinking it's going to rain, you're never going to get your equipment out there and get ready to harvest. What am I supposed to learn from that information? It's still preparation. It's wisdom. Advice to young people. Because the conditions aren't always going to be perfect. If you wait for everything to be perfect, I remember us talking about like financially, when's a good time to start having kids. And I'll never forget my dad, because when you're literally counting every penny and you're looking at your budget and this does not, how in the world are we going to make this work? Like the numbers don't work. And my dad said, if you wait till you can afford them, You'll never have it. And now, could you be reckless with that? And you see people get way out of hand and they're totally unprepared. So there's still wisdom here, but that's true of a lot of things. And there's just, like I said, it's not all about money we're talking about, but the wisdom here. The wisdom. Just get up, go to work, and don't wait for it to be perfect. Don't wait. And if it starts raining hard enough and lightning, then get in your truck and wait till it passes or call it a day. But don't not wake up and at least try, because you might end up missing a good day of work on that one. You don't know the way the wind's going to blow, verse 5. You don't know how the bones are going to grow in the womb. You don't know the works of God. So verse 6, in the morning, sow your seed. The kids today would tell you, shoot your shot. Take your chance. And in the evening, don't withhold your hand, for you don't know which will prosper, either this or that, or whether both alike will be good. You don't know, so take a chance. Don't be paralyzed by fear. Enjoy your youth. Take some chances. Not immoral chances, but, what is it? Money risk, money gain. There's all kinds of little slogans out there that y'all are used to. All right, 7 and 8. Truly the light is sweet. It's pleasant for the eyes to behold the sun. But if a man lives many years and rejoices in them all, yet let him remember the days of darkness, for they will be many. All that is coming is vanity. Now we just kind of went, so we're doing this, cast your bread, take your chances, shoot your shot. But then 7 and 8, the old lion is telling you what?
When you get old, you can't do what you did.
Well, that's 100% where we're headed in the next chapter. 100% where we're headed. Light, in the sun, when the sun shines on you, isn't it glorious? And as a young man, embrace that, enjoy that, soak all that in. But if you live long enough, he's encouraging you to rejoice in all of your days, because not all your days had sunshine. Remember the days of darkness, because those are going to come too. It's just another key word that I see all over the book of Ecclesiastes, and we've already talked about it. It's balance. It's balance. It's not getting out of balance on any of this stuff. See, stuff like that. I love that. It wouldn't get anywhere. All right. So, following after, Ms. Madeline, kind of your comment about the young men, old men, verse 9. So rejoice, O young man, in your youth. Let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and in the sight of your eyes. But know that for all these, God will bring you into judgment. Therefore, remove sorrow from your heart. Put away evil from your flesh. For childhood and youth. And again, we have the word vanity, and I don't like vanity here. I don't think it's wasted. I think he means it's more like it's like a vapor. That's the actual meaning of the word that's translated vanity, is smoke or a mist or a vapor. I don't think childhood and youth are evil, but how fast do they pass? Right? Everybody we've talked to said, man, and we're just now getting the slightest taste of it about how fast your kids grow up. And time takes forever. And then you get out of high school and it starts speeding up. Then you get married and maybe, whatever. Then you start having that first youngin', and man, it's not evil. It's like a smoke. And so what is the advice to young people here? Do you see it in the same vein as the other stuff we've been talking about? About use your life wisdom. Take your chances. Take your risks. Don't wait for perfect weather. Be smart about it. Be smart about it. Don't get crazy. But while you're young, enjoy being young. Any of y'all wish you would have enjoyed your youth a little more? Right, G-Paul?
And my advice for everybody is live each year, like this is going to be your last year.
That's right.
Because it's just there, just like I read before last week, one of the comments in the very beginning of Ecclesiastes was, you need to enjoy today, because today is the day that God gave you.
That's right. It's the gift.
So you need to be happy where you're at and not wish you were younger or not wish you were older. Just be happy right where you're at. Man,
the follow-up question, you just answered it with the last two verses. Is this advice just to young people? Because what's the definition of young? Anybody's that's a couple of years behind you, right? So, because this verse could be just as true to a 60-year-old as we're thinking it's true for a 20-year-old. Enjoy the age that you are with your wife now. Enjoy the life and the breath and the energy you have to work and do stuff with your hands. That's just as true whether you're 60 as if you're 20 or anywhere in between. Am I right? Am I wrong? So this is for all of us about enjoy. I love how you said that. Enjoy the phrase where you are. Now remember, this is not willy-nilly, enjoy like Solomon did, where I pursued folly, not that, but with God in mind, take more ice cream breaks, right? Unless you maxed out at 30, and then you got to figure out other things. Some people took that and maxed it out early, and hey, but you maxed it out. You got all of them in. Exactly. That's the balance of it. Do you eat ice cream for every meal all day long? But it's the wisdom but it's okay to enjoy it. Take the day of a vacation because the work will still be there tomorrow. But I can't take every day of vacation because then I don't have the money where the verses we already have. Bill?
Henry got his driver's license. You spent a lot of time over there at this law. He came home, I forget what the flavor was. And Henry said, Mr. Kev has him a bowl of ice cream every night.
I'm with you. I used to.
And there you go.
And mint chocolate chip. Son. All right. So that one so there's a couple of R's, and I preached a sermon about this. This one's for free. 11:9 is rejoice while you're young. 12 verse 1 is remember while you're young. Rejoice and enjoy it while you're young. And then now chapter 12 verse 1, remember your Creator in the days of your youth. So do this casting of bread upon the waters, do this risk taking, getting this wisdom about sharpening action, all that, get all of it in there, enjoy it, but just remember while you're doing it, I'm doing it for God. Tyler, you can be a very successful and you can stack up all the money in the world, and if God ain't a part of it, it don't amount to nothing. All of the toys and all of the success and all the quote unquote financial security amounts to absolutely zero if you're not honoring God with your life. Right? Remembering, that's just as true for me though it is for him. Right? And that's true for all of us. Now, the description that comes here, and I know you guys have probably been through this before, when really the middle of verse 1 all the way through 8 is kind of a description of getting older. You want to read that section together? Grandma, do you mind? What version do you have, just out of curiosity? All right. Perfect. Will you read 1 through, let's do 1 through 7 of what you've got there.
Don't let the excitement of youth cause you to forget your Creator. Honor him in your youth before you grow old and say, life is not pleasant anymore. Remember him before the light of the sun, moon, and stars is dim to your old eyes, and rain clouds continually darken your sky. Remember him before your legs, the guards of your house, start to tremble, and before your shoulders, the strong men stoop. Remember him before your teeth, your few remaining servants, stop grinding, and before your eyes, the woman looking through the windows see dimly. Remember him before the door to life's opportunity is closed, and the sound of work fades. Now you rise at the first chirping of the birds, but then all their sounds will grow faint. Remember him before you become fearful of falling and worry about danger in the streets, before your hair turns white like an almond tree in bloom, and you drag along without energy like a dying grasshopper, and the caperberry no longer inspires sexual desire. Remember him before you near the grave, your everlasting home, when the mourners will weep at your funeral. Yes, remember your Creator now, while you are young, before the silver cord of life snaps and the golden bowl is broken. Don't wait until the water jar is smashed at the spring and the pulley is broken at the well. For then the dust will return to the earth and the spirit will return to God who gave it.
Any truth to that statement? And what I really like about the NLT there is it goes ahead and tells you what some of these analogies are, that if you're reading the King James or New King James, And almost everybody interprets them the same. So if you go over and look at a commentary, pretty much everybody will tell you like the keepers of the house. Yours already said the legs. The strong men, the shoulders or the arms, and the grinders, so it's just kind of, it is a realistic picture of enjoy being young because the day's going to come. And I hate saying it, but it's the reality of the end of verse 1. There's days where you say, this isn't any fun. Or the phrases that you hear, getting old is not for the weak. And I'm on the young phase. I understand I'm still on the young phase at 44 years old, but it absolutely infuriates me that I can get a good night's sleep and wake up with my neck hurting so bad because I didn't sleep the right position, and it drives me bananas. Like, this is the dumbest thing ever that I finally got a few hours, but because my neck was just a little bit tweaked this way, now you have to call it the Batman walk, where you have to walk around like this because you don't even want to turn your head. Am I the only one? Does that get any better? No. And it's stupid. It's futile. It is meaningless. All right, we're going to stop there. We'll pick up. We'll wrap it up, and then we'll talk about where we're going to go after that. We're going to revisit this. So if you